Okay, folks. Thought for the day. Wonder what date is it? It's early for me, about 6:30, and the date is December the 11th. Let's see what we got. 11th, 18th. I got about 3.5 weeks to supposedly the fiscal cliff. And I'm like everybody else. So what? Fiscal cliff, hey, not gonna hurt me. Well, I got a thing via email today from a dialysis server called DaVita. And my dialysis service is Fresenius. Fresenius is the largest dialysis server in the world. They got hospitals and clinics and all manner of stuff. But when it comes to dialysis, they're the biggest ones. They have something on the order of 280,000 patients in about 3,100 clinics spread around the United States, and then, of course, they're out there in the world. But I got this thing from DaVita, and I have to assume that this would have the same effect on Fresenius as anybody else. End of the year Medicaid cuts. I'm going to read it because I can't put this into words myself. End of the year Medicaid cuts could impact dialysis patients. Dialysis care is a lifeline for many people with and without dialysis or transplant. These patients could not survive. That means they'd die. That means I'd die. I'm doing pretty well. I'll be 75 in May, and aside from my kidneys being bad, I'm a asset to society. Medicare cuts being discussed may have a significant and disproportionate impact on the dialysis providers and patients nationwide. Currently, more than 80% of the patients depend on Medicare for life-sustaining treatment, and that includes me. I'm on Medicare. I'm 75. I don't think they're going to jack the age up to where I will no longer be on Medicare. I know that's one of the things that they want to do. For these beneficiaries, the dialysis providers receive a bundled payment for a multitude of services. Specifically, patients receive 4-hour dialysis sessions at least 3 times a week, which includes lab services, nursing care, medications, and more. Medicare barely covers the cost of dialysis treatments. I have supplementary insurance, so I'm paying my freight. Thus, many of our facilities lose money on a majority of the patients served. As policymakers in Washington discuss cuts to an already stretched bundled payment system, still adjusting to changes and approaching a fiscal cliff cut in January, we fear dialysis clinics could close their door, leaving the patients in a difficult situation. Tell me. If that clinic wasn't down there, if the Medicare funds were cut back to where they didn't think it was worth their while to be there and they closed the doors, once again, I'd die. It's a real possibility. It's not a bit funny. I guess that's what you call a nervous laugh. Forced to travel long distances to receive care, dialyzed at a hospital emergency room. Well, let's see, there's 3,100 clinics in the United States with almost 300,000 patients. Can you imagine the pandemonium at the emergency rooms at the hospitals? Wouldn't work. They'd be wiped out. At hospital emergency rooms, that costs the system more money, or some other, and some would not be able to get the necessary care altogether. Well, I'm going to put this right where I see it. I see it on the Republican Party and the Tea Party. They are the ones that have, to me, have been obstinate. They were obstinate about the national debt a year or two back, to the point where they rammed through a thing called a super committee. And the super committee was 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and they didn't do a blessed thing except to put this measure online that if something didn't happen by January the 1st of this year, then these automatic cuts would go in. There's a distinct possibility, if the automatic cuts are put in place as proposed, I could lose my dialysis service. I don't want to seem selfish or anything, but somehow it doesn't seem right. 300,000 people all of a sudden succumb to a disease that it can be taken care of. And it's not a pleasant way to die. You don't die right away. I'd probably last a month or two. And of course the process of getting dead would be awful. So I would ask you, still from New York, those of you that are out there, even the righties, and I know that the situation that I'm facing probably is nothing like any situation that you're facing, so who cares? But write your congressman or whoever it is that's out there in the world and ask them to leave the money in Medicare so that me and my 300,000 other friends can go on living. It would be an unnecessary, and don't think for a minute we can afford to pay for it ourselves. It's obscenely expensive. I'm going to do something here that I haven't done on camera. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you my lifeline. See that little darling right there? That keeps me alive. I go in every other day and they stick needles in that and they take my blood and they run it through a machine and it cleanses it. I went in one time and had a procedure done to that thing you just saw, and the bill for it was $21,000. Now, that's obscene. There's no way what they did to me should have cost $21,000, but if Medicare hadn't been there to pay for it, and my supplementary insurance, I'd be dead now. So folks, kind of search your souls, write your congressman, and say, look, enough is enough. There are other things that we can cut back on. And I don't know how else to say it. I've got a lot of other thoughts in my mind, but that when I got that this morning, that just, needless to say, wiped everything else out of my brain. So, the fiscal cliff cometh. And for me and some other folks, it can be a real cliff. We get shoved off. It's bad. Call your congressman. Give us a hand. Don't let them do this. I don't need my German dialysis company to pack up their stuff and go back to Germany, because flying over there every third day would be a little cost prohibitive. Couldn't do it. Anyway, that's my thought for the day. Please think about what I said.